12 Years a Slave, the tragic true story of Solomon Northup. Solomon Northup, born a free man in 1808 in Minerva, New York, lived a life that many would consider the embodiment of freedom. He was an accomplished musician, a man who cherished his family, and a citizen of the North, where slavery was outlawed. Solomon's life was one of peace and opportunity until fate intervened in the most unimaginable way. This is a story of resilience, the triumph of the human spirit over the darkest forces of oppression. It is a tale of survival, of a man whose determination to regain his freedom drove him to unimaginable lengths, and it is a story that still resonates with us today. In 1841, while living in Saratoga Springs, New York, Solomon was tricked by two men who claimed to have worked for him as a violinist in Washington, D.C. The promise of a job seemed like an opportunity, but little did he know, the men had sinister intentions. They drugged him, and when he regained consciousness, he found himself shackled and sold into slavery. He was kidnapped, transported to the South, and sold to a ruthless plantation owner in Louisiana. The moment that Solomon realized he had been deceived, the life he had known was shattered. He had become a slave, stripped of his identity, his family, and his freedom. Solomon's new life was a brutal, dehumanizing existence. His new owner, a man named Ford, was relatively kind compared to others, but the conditions were still harsh. Solomon was forced to work tirelessly on the plantation, enduring the constant threat of violence and death. It was here that Solomon's true strength and resourcefulness began to emerge. Despite the cruelty of his surroundings, he never gave up hope. He learned to navigate the treacherous and often dangerous relationships between slaves and their masters, biding his time and waiting for an opportunity to escape. But it wasn't just physical strength that kept Solomon going, it was the memories of his family, his wife, and children, and the belief that he was not meant to live as a slave. In the darkest moments, his music provided him with a small but powerful solace. He played his violin to remind himself of who he was, a free man with a spirit that could not be broken. Solomon spent years on various plantations, enduring cruel treatment from several masters. He was sold to a man named Edwin Epps, a sadistic and brutal slave owner whose cruelty was matched only by his desire to break Solomon's spirit. Epps would often force Solomon to work long hours in the cotton fields under the hot sun. The work was grueling, and the physical abuse was unrelenting. Solomon's life was a never-ending cycle of suffering and fear. But even under Epps' rule, Solomon's resolve did not waver. He never gave up on the hope that one day he would regain his freedom. During his time with Epps, Solomon met a fellow slave named Patsy. She was a strong and resilient woman, but her spirit had been broken by the unrelenting cruelty of their master. The relationship between Solomon and Patsy was one of mutual support and understanding, as they both clung to the idea of freedom. Solomon's story of survival wasn't just about enduring the physical brutality, it was also about holding on to his humanity and his hope for the future. There were moments when it seemed like all was lost, but Solomon never gave in. Every hardship, every beating, only fueled his desire to escape. In 1847, after years of suffering, Solomon encountered a Canadian laborer named Samuel Bass, who worked on the plantation and shared Solomon's outrage at the institution of slavery. Solomon saw in Bass a potential ally. Over time, Solomon confided in Bass about his true identity and his desire to escape. Bass was sympathetic, and together they devised a plan. Solomon's hope for freedom was reignited when Bass agreed to send a letter to Solomon's family in New York, informing them of his plight. The letter would eventually reach Solomon's wife and children, who immediately took action. They contacted a lawyer who worked on behalf of free black men, and soon, a legal battle began to unfold. Solomon's journey toward freedom took on a new dimension as he fought through the legal system to regain his liberty. After years of being treated as property, the law would finally be his weapon. The legal proceedings were grueling, but the support of his family, the efforts of his lawyer, and the testimony of Samuel Bass made all the difference. In 1853, after a long legal battle, Solomon Northup was finally freed from slavery. His legal victory was not just a personal triumph, it was a symbolic victory for all enslaved people. Solomon's case set a precedent for future legal battles and brought attention to the horrors of slavery in America. When Solomon was freed, he made his way back to his family in New York. The reunion was emotional, as Solomon had not seen his wife and children in over a decade. The joy of being reunited with his family was bittersweet, as Solomon carried the trauma of his years in captivity. His story of survival and resilience was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Solomon wrote a memoir, 12 Years a Slave, which was published in 1853. The book detailed his experiences in slavery and became an important work in the abolitionist movement. His story was shared far and wide, and it exposed the horrors of slavery to the broader public. The book also helped to inspire others to fight against the system of slavery. Solomon Northup's story is one of the most important in the history of slavery in America. His strength, resilience, and determination in the face of unimaginable adversity serve as a powerful reminder of the human capacity to endure. His memoir and the subsequent film adaptation brought his story to a new generation, ensuring that the horrors of slavery are never forgotten. Though Solomon's personal story ended with his freedom, the legacy of his suffering and survival continues to resonate. His experiences serve as a reminder that freedom should never be taken for granted, and that the fight for justice is an ongoing struggle. Solomon Northup's story is a testament to the power of hope, the importance of resilience, and the enduring fight for human dignity. His courage in the face of slavery, and his ability to reclaim his freedom, remain an inspiration to all who fight against injustice. As we reflect on Solomon's journey, we are reminded that the struggles of the past shape the future. We must honor the memory of those who fought for freedom and continue to work toward a world where liberty, dignity, and equality are the rights of all. Thank you for joining us as we explored the remarkable life of Solomon Northup, a man who defied the odds and triumphed over the cruel institution of slavery. If you found this story inspiring, please be sure to like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe to Mafia and Romance Tales for more captivating stories inspired by real historical events. Until next time, stay inspired and keep learning from the past to build a better future.